Pradyumna Mishra, he comes to see Mahaprabhu and he asks Mahaprabhu, please can you tell me about Krishna? And Mahaprabhu says, whatever I know about Krishna, I learned from Ramananda Rai. So you please go to Ramananda Rai, you hear from him. We see in a few occasions, this occasion, and there's one other occasion I'm thinking of, maybe others, where he gives that position to Ramananda Rai. What I know, I learned from Ramananda. He knows much more than me. So then Pradyumna Mishra, he follows Mahaprabhu's instruction. He goes to Ramananda Rai, but when he reaches there, he sees Ramananda is very busy. He's teaching these Devadasis, these young girls of Jagannath Puri. You remember, right? How they're preparing for a drama for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath, but he's touching them in very intimate ways, showing them how to make their posture, and so Pradyumna is very puzzled and not so sure about this Ramananda. So he goes back to Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu says, oh, did you hear from... Well, I went there, but, I wasn't so sure. This is what I saw. And so then Mahaprabhu is going to explain. You don't understand who Ramananda Rai is. He says, there's Ek Ramananda. Only one Ram. Even, Mahaprabhu says, even I'm disturbed if I see the form of a woman. But Ramananda Rai, he is always fixed in pure divine consciousness. And so Mahaprabhu is in the middle of that explanation now. Okay, I'll start here. Tobe Mishra Ramanande Virtanta Kohila Shuni Mahaprabhu Tobe Kohite Lagila. Pradyumna Mishra thereupon describes the activities of Sri Ramananda Rai. After hearing about these activities, Mahaprabhu began to speak. Amito Sanyasi Apanade Virakta Kodi Mani Darshan Rahu Dode Prakritir Namajadi Shuni Tabahi Vikarpai Modatanuman Prakriti Darshanestir Hoika Anjan. I'm a sannyasi, he said, and I certainly consider myself renounced. But what to speak of seeing a woman? If I even hear the name of a woman, I feel changes in my mind and body. Therefore, who could remain unmoved by the sight of a woman? It is very difficult. Ramananda Rai and vice versa. Ramananda Rai kata shuno sarva jan, kohi bar kata nahe jahas charja katan. Everyone please hear these topics about Ramananda Rai, although they are so wonderful and uncommon that they should not be spoken. Eke Devadasi ar sundari taduni, tarsa banga seva kode napani. The two professional dancing girls are beautiful and youthful, yet Sri Ramananda Rai personally massages their entire bodies with oil. Snanadi kodai padai vasavibhushan, guyanger hoitaha darshan sparshan. He personally bathes and dresses them and decorates them with ornaments. In this way, he naturally sees and touches the private parts of their bodies. Tabu nirvikarai Ramananda man, nana bhavod gaitade kodai shikan. Nevertheless, the mind of Sri Ramananda Rai never changes, although he teaches the girls how to physically express all the transformations of ecstasy. Nirvikar dehoman kashta pashansam, ascharja taruni sparshe nirvikarman. His mind is as steady as wood or stone. Indeed, it is wonderful that even when he touches such young girls, his mind never changes. Ek Ramanande hoye adhikar, tate jane aprakrita deho tahar. The authority for such acts is the prerogative of Ramananda Rai alone. For I can understand that his body is not material, but has been completely transformed into a spiritual entity. Tahar manir bhav teho jane matra, tahar jani bhadeyar ditya nahi patra. He alone and no one else can understand the position of his mind. Kintu shastra jishte koryanuman Shri Bhagavata shastra tahate praman. But I can make a guess in terms of directions from the Shastra. The Vedic scripture Srimad Bhagavatam gives the direct evidence in this matter.
Sorry, I have a question. A couple of shlokas back, you said that his body becomes spiritualized entirely. But as far as I heard, he's an eternal associate of the Lord.
Well, I had the same question. The Bengali doesn't say that. The Bengali says aprakrita deha, that he has an aprakrita body, he has a spiritual body. It doesn't say it was transformed.
So something which is aprakrita is always aprakrita.
In the case of Ramananda Rai, absolutely, yeah. He's an eternal associate. So, yes, you are correct. Rajavadu Sange Krishna Rasa Divilas Jai Jan Kohe Shune Koriya Vishwas Hidro Kamta Tatkale Hoi Koi Teen Gun Kopnahe Mahadira Hoi. When one hears or describes with great faith the pastimes of Lord Krishna, such as his rasa dance with the gopis, the disease of lusty desires in his heart and the agitation caused by the three modes of material nature are immediately nullified, and he becomes sober and silent. I'm going to read this purport. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments in this connection, any person seriously inclined to hear about the pastimes of Krishna's rasa dance, as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, with great faith, and a transcendental, spiritually inspired mind, is immediately freed from the natural lusty desires found within the heart of a materialistic man. This verse that we're coming to, a very famous verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, and there are important purports in this, because it is a verse which sahajas they can jump all over. That by hearing the intimate pastimes of Sri Krishna with the Braja Gopis, our hearts will become purified. And the idea here, and the context of this verse, this is in Srimad Bhagavatam. I feel shy to explain in front of Tyagi Maharaj, because he can explain much better. But I'll say something, maybe he'll say something afterwards. But the context of this verse is in Srimad Bhagavatam, when Shukadev Goswami, he's telling Bhagavatam to the assembled audience, and especially to Parikshit Maharaj. And he's come to, this is in the 10th canto, he's describing the Rasa Leela, and this very, grand assembly, they're astonished. So many different dignitaries from different fields of, Vedic practices, with their, long beards, and so many PhDs. And they have all their different areas of research, and they're very highly, educated and very intelligent, very brilliant people. And, great austerity, great intelligence, great knowledge, and great, so many siddhis, and so on and so forth. And now they're being told that not only is the supreme, the supreme expression of the Absolute appears in this aprakrita form as a boy, as a human-like boy. Not only that, but he engages in this very questionable behavior. He in what we would normally consider to be very immoral behavior, to be, abominable. The word there, because Parikshit Maharaj, on behalf of Parikshit Maharaj, he's cool with this, he's going with this, but he's seeing the faces of the sages, like their jaws are dropping, and Parikshit Maharaj understands, they don't get this, they don't understand this, and so on their behalf, he interrupts and he asks Shukadev, how is this possible? How can we understand that the Supreme Absolute, engages and he uses this word jagupshitam, which means like abominable, like this is abominable, this is, the most degraded and terrible kind of behavior. How can you say, So, and it's very interesting because that same word is used at the beginning of Bhagavatam when Narada is chastising Vyasadeva, and he tells him that if you don't describe these pastimes, that will be abominable. That will be jagupshitam. If you don't tell of Krishna Leela, if you don't tell the glories of Krishna, then that is abominable. And he is the Supreme Absolute, He is the master of all. There is no question of any impropriety on his part. So Parikshit Maharaj, he asks this on behalf of the audience for their, peace of mind, their understanding. And then Shukadev, he tells this verse, and in that context, the point is that, these pastimes are so pure, according to your mundane reference point, they appear to be impure, they appear to be something filthy. But within the context, I didn't sleep very well last night. What was I saying? According to your mundane reference point, these pastimes appear to be something filthy, but actually they are so pure that they can purify you. They can clean your heart. That is how pure they are. So, that this verse, it serves a particular, and also Srila Gurudev, as we're coming to the verse, Srila Gurudev would always point out that here in this verse, it's very significant that Krishna is referred to as Vishnu. Vikritam Vajravadubhe idam cha Vishnu. That these pastimes performed by Vishnu, he doesn't say Krishna here. It's the same number of syllables, Krishna and Vishnu. So he could easily have said Krishna. But he's deliberately saying Vishnu, because Vishnu, everybody respects Vishnu. Vishnu is very dignified. Vishnu has 4 arms. Krishna, he has 1 wife, Vishnu is very civilized, very respectable. So the non-difference of Vishnu and Krishna is being pointed out here. This is, his divine play, his aprakrita leela, his divine human-like play. So, yeah, okay.
I was wondering this. You can see, like in a relationship with Vishnu, there's some reverence, respect. There's some kind of morality involved, some kind of set of rules which has to be executed. But then in the relationships with Krishna, with his associates, and sometimes such things as morality is not considered, and the beauty of what is happening is more important than the moral aspect of it. And I was wondering this, is there a shift after which point the morality does not count anymore? It stops to matter. Like in this world, everything is based on good and bad, moral, immoral, proper, improper.
Yeah.
And people use this consideration, judgment to say this is proper, this is not.
Yeah.
And then with the idea of morality, they approach Krishna Lila and then they say, oh, like this is immoral. But
Yeah.
But if we take in consideration that the plane where it is happening, it is beyond morality,
Yeah.
then it cannot be judged with the position of what is right or wrong, moral, immoral,
Yeah.
based on our understanding.
Yeah. I mean, these things, they only have meaning in a world where selfishness, self-interest, they reign supreme, but in a plane where there's no question of that, then it has no meaning. Right? In a plane where there's no question of self-interest acting upon the spirit of selfishness, then moral and these designations, they have no significance at all. I was reflecting this the other day. This is why it's so difficult for persons to understand Krishna consciousness, to appreciate it, because even within the what to speak of within the world, the general persons, but even within persons who know of the Vedic, are familiar with the Vedic teachings, because it is so high. There's no reference point with this material world, like Ramachandra. Everybody can appreciate Ramachandra because it's an example that has meaning within the context of this worldly plane, morality. But in a plane where there's no question of immorality, in a plane that has no reference point to this mundane world, then it's hard. It's hard for us to really appreciate how high these teachings are, because they're existing within their own plane. There's no touch. There's zero connection. There's zero reference point to the values of this polluted, contaminated world. Maharaj, you want to add something to that?
Another perspective is also that the Braja Gopis are more moral than we are. Like, what we think of moral values, the people of the Vedic society, they had stricter adherence to morality than even popular moralists of today. And for them to transgress those codes of morality was it was a very vivid reality in their mind, or something like that. Like, they know what they're doing, and they know the moral consequences of doing it, but still they did it. And the fact that they were keenly aware of that moral standard and yet still broke it is the ultimate testament to the purity of their love and their self-sacrifice, that they were ready to undergo all those consequences for the sake of coming to serve Krishna. And this is what makes them stand out above every other category of devotee.
But how would you define the difference between morality of this plane and morality of the spiritual world?
No difference. I mean, there's the broader sense of what Didi's mentioning, so the freedom from any self-interest, but it's a prakrita, means just as there is the morality of the prakrita world, so there is the morality of human society in the aprakrita world. They have the laws of the Vedas, they know about heaven and hell and Vishnu and karma and all those things. And like the story about the food dust, Narada is shocked that they know the consequences of giving Krishna their food dust, and still they do it. And then he's like, oh my God, like, these people are in a whole plane beyond me and beyond even all of us sages and general class pure devotees. So morality is another texture which ultimately ornaments the beauty of their love.
There's one that we heard from Devidasi, but we can keep it there. We'll ask Maharaj to say something about this verse as well. But so we heard from Devidasi was some couple who because, we take this very loosely, relationships between man and women, this morality, we take it very loosely, especially in our modern Western culture. But it was actually a great sacrifice for them, as Maharaj was saying, to break those, religious codes, to break these, so-called moral behavior in order to serve Krishna on a higher platform. It's actually a great sacrifice. And from where, within their Prakriti consciousness, it's a great sacrifice for them to give up morality of this world.
You were saying they refer to Vishnu as Krishna, and was that by that they could make that shift, because Vishnu is Krishna? That's why they could.
No, I'm saying in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, where we didn't, sorry, maybe it's confusing because we didn't come to the verse yet. We're talking about, we didn't come to it yet. But the verse which is describing the nature of these pastimes, that they can purify lust from someone's heart. These pastimes of Krishna, of Vishnu, with the Braja Gopis. Here, Krishna is referred to as Vishnu in the verse. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll I'll just read this purport because it is very important. This verse, because there's many. Oh yeah, which we jumped ahead, but there's many qualifiers here, right? It's saying, hearing these pastimes of Krishna with the Braja Gopis, they can purify one's heart from lust. But there's many qualifiers to that, and so our Guru Varga have put, they've pointed this out. It's not that just anybody who are going to hear. No, one already has to be at a particular level of qualification. What type of hearing? From what source are they hearing? It's not that we'll all just go jump to Ujjvala Nilamani and the 10th canto and so on and so forth. That is the warning which is pointed out by our Guru Varga. So I'll just read this. This is a pretty short purport. I think Srila Saraswati Thakur has a longer one somewhere. Tyagi Maharaj has translated it. But we'll just read this. This is short, and then we'll hear the verse, and then we can hear something from Maharaj. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments in this connection: any person seriously inclined to hear about the pastimes of Krishna's rasa dance, as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, with great faith. So this is one qualifier. One must have very profound faith. And a transcendental, spiritually inspired mind is immediately freed from the natural lusty desires found within the heart of materialistic man. So someone who's at a particular stage, but as I heard Gurudev once when he was telling this, like there's still some shadow of lust that's remaining within their heart. Someone of that, at that level of advancement, they will be fully purified. When a pure Vaishnav speaks on Srimad Bhagavatam and another pure Vaishnav hears Srimad Bhagavatam from such a realized soul, both of them live in the transcendental world where the contamination of the modes of material nature cannot touch them. Freed from the contamination of the modes of nature, the speaker and hearer are fixed in a transcendental mentality. Knowing that their position on the transcendental platform is to serve the Supreme Lord, the class of men known as Prakrita Sahajyas, who consider the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna something like the behavior between a man and woman in the material field, artificially think that hearing the Rasa Leela will help them. See, this is the thing, as Srila Swami Maharaj was saying, artificially, like I need to take it upon myself to go and hear these things, for the continuance of my spiritual development. This is very, foolish. artificially think that by hearing the Rasa Leela will help them by diminishing the lusty desires of their diseased hearts, but because they do not follow the regulative principles, but instead violate even ordinary morals, their contemplation of Rasa Leela is a futile attempt, which sometimes results in their imitating the dealings of the gopis and Lord Krishna. To forbid such habits of the Prakrita Sahajyas, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has excluded their material intelligence by using the word Vishvas, faith. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Shukadev Goswami says, Naitat samacharej jatu manasapi yanishvara vinashyat yacharan modya yatarujo bijam bisham. And this verse, it's also, they're next to each other in Bhagavatam, which are both, conveying the how high these pastimes are. Certainly one who is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead should never, even within his mind, imitate the activities of the transcendental Rasa Leela of Krishna. If out of ignorance one does so, he will be destroyed, just as if he were to imitate Lord Shiva, who drank poison produced from the ocean. Well, the translation's not so clear here, but Lord Shiva, he drank the poison that manifests from the ocean of milk, and what happened? He just got a beautiful, blue mark on his neck. So, do you think you can drink poison from the ocean of milk? It'll destroy you. You're not Lord Shiva. So, in the same way, don't be foolish. Don't try to imitate these high pastimes. They are not on a material platform. Ujjvala Madhur Prem. So that's the end of that purport. Ujjvala Madhur Prem Bhakti Se Pai Ananda Krishna Madhurya Vihare Sadai. Tasting transcendental, effulgent, sweetly ecstatic love of Krishna, such a person can enjoy life 24 hours a day and the transcendental bliss of the sweetness of Krishna's pastimes. So this is describing this very, highly advanced person who becomes purified hearing this Krishna Leela. Okay, now we're coming to the verse. This is the verse we've been speaking about from Srimad Bhagavatam. Vikritam vajravadubiridam cha Vishnu shadam vito anushnuyad atavarna yedya bhaktim padam bhagavati pratilabhya kamam hridrogam ashva pahinotya chirena dira. A transcendentally sober person who, with faith and love, continually hears from a realized soul about the activities of Lord Krishna in his rasa dance with the gopis, or one who describes such activities, can attain full transcendental devotional service at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, lusty material desires, which are the heart disease of all materialistic persons, are for him quickly and completely vanquished. Okay, Maharaj, please, you say something. Not the verse.
Well, this verse comes at the very end of the Rasa Poncha Dhyayi. So, in the 10th canto, these 5 chapters that discuss the Rasa Leela, they're called the Rasa Poncha Dhyayi. And they're explained to be the pran of Srimad Bhagavatam. Pran is usually called 5 life airs, 5 of these different vital energies. So it is said that these 5 chapters are like the 5 types of pran of the Bhagavatam. They're the very life of the Bhagavatam, the very purpose of the Bhagavatam. Everything else in Bhagavatam is casing for this. This is the crowning, central, vital expression of the entire Bhagavatam. And this particular verse is the very last verse of the very last chapter of those 5 things. So it's like the encapsulation of that set of 5 chapters, conveying the gist of the benefit of hearing it, or the benefit of it being in Bhagavatam and being cultured by Vaishnavas. So thus it is well known and often discussed and here used by Mahaprabhu. So, it is talking about the most significant thing of all, right? That, here it says, Bhaktim Param Bhagavati, this supreme type of bhakti, which itself is the whole thing that the Bhagavatam is trying to give. The Bhagavatam starts out saying, Dharma, what is the Parama Dharma? It is that which rejects all types of Kaitava, which is appreciated only by those who are near Matsara, etc. And every classical text, then there must be a systematic presentation of 4 things. The subject, the prescribed process, the goal, and the adhikar of the listener. So the second verse of Bhagavatam gives those 4 essential points about what the Bhagavatam is about. So there it says, what is the subject of Bhagavatam? It is this highest dharma. And then that is further then explained when it says, Savai pungso paro dharma. That highest dharma is that which leads to this type of bhakti for adhoksaja. So now this bhaktim param bhagavati is showing ultimately what all of that is. What's said to be the thing that this book is about, what's said to be the highest ultimate function of human beings, the thing, or not that it is their function, but their function is to achieve this. And here then in this set of the Rasa Panchadhyayi, that is illustrated, and now it's saying this can be attained. This is the ultimate achievement of all, to have this type of bhakti for Krishna. And that is ultimately why the Bhagavatam is called the Amala Puran, the purest Purana, because it gives this ultimate sense of who is Bhagavan and how one may be connected with him. So, here then, that process or the significance of what is of this crowning revelation of Bhagavatam, this Leela of Krishna with the gopis, is being encapsulated and saying that hearing it will lead to this highest attainment, which of course implies that it itself is the highest thing, and by hearing of it, by describing it with these essential qualifiers of anu and shraddhanvita, then that highest type of bhakti can be attained. And by attaining it, then this disease of the heart known as kama will be completely destroyed. So, the fundamental, as elsewhere in Bhagavatam, the overall analysis is that the cause of all suffering is kam, which is a product of avidya. So that thing which is the cause of all suffering will be removed, and that thing which is the highest achievement, which will lead to the highest possible fulfillment, that will be achieved. So the classical pursuit of Vedanta, the fundamental analysis of life in the most abstracted sense, to find satisfaction and avoid sorrow, that is also shown here to be precisely achieved by what is described in this Rasa Panchadhyayi. So then, it is compared to like this ultimate medicine or this ultimate beneficial thing. But like any very strong medicine, then there is some very appropriate some considerations that are necessary to apply in order for the medicine to work. Just as, anti-venom or different types of medicine may save your life, but if you use them wrong, they can kill you, or they can cause very adverse effects if they're not administered properly. So that point is belabored here and shown that one must hear it with Shraddha. So, earlier Shraddha is defined as Jato Shraddha Mat Kathasu Nirvino Sarva Karmasu, to have faith in talk of me, Krishna says, is synonymous with, or is the same thing as saying one is indifferent to all else. These are two ways of saying. Jiva Goswami comments on that verse that it is not necessary to say Nirvina Sarva Karmasu. It is redundant because Shraddha implies that already. But nevertheless it is told for emphasis. In other words, it is already implied by simply having Shraddha, but to further clarify the point, to really have Shraddha for Krishna means to have become indifferent to any other pursuit or attainment or notion of its value. So for someone who has that type of clarity in the position of Bhagavan, then they can hear this Leela that he has with the gopis, and they can understand it for what it's meant to be, not something to imitate, not something to use as a means to selfish enjoyment or anything of the sort, but rather as demonstrating the ultimate degree of loving service in self-forgetfulness and self-sacrifice shown by the gopis, that is couched in really the most beautiful and charming way that it ever could be, and described so elaborately and beautifully over the course of these chapters. So to hear that, and Anu is also classified to mean continuously and from an appropriate source. So it presupposes that the person from whom one hears it is a person who has also heard it in the proper way from a person who has also heard it in the proper way. In other words, in parampara, and according to the necessary assessment of adhikar, and all of these unfortunate things like prakriti sahajiyasm and so forth, they all come out from being slack about maintaining the consideration for the adhikar of the speaker and the adhikar of the listener. So when the speaker is not attentive to who is the audience, or a listener goes to hear without considering their own adhikar or anything like that, that's where all this, disinformation or disambiguation or whatever you want to call it, comes out. So if these 2 points are upheld, the proper qualification of the speaker, the proper qualification of the listener, then this wonderful, most miraculous effect takes place, where the highest thing is achieved and the ultimate cause of suffering is dispelled. So that most beautiful thing is heard about in the appropriate way, and the most wonderful effect is achieved. It's so nice. It's so wonderful. It's what is the crowning beauty of life on earth, right? That people could sit and hear the Bhagavat in this way. That's why the world is existing. That's why Bhagavan continues this continual manifestation of the world and the Bhagavat and perpetuates all of these things. And then there's also sometimes some little bit difference of reading about the role of the word dhira in the verse. And some read it that, and according to grammar, both are admissible, so to speak, that one must be dhira and then one will achieve bhakti and become free from the disease of the heart. Or the other way, that one by hearing will achieve this bhakti and become dhira and become free from the disease of the heart. So most of the classical commentators have given the second reading. I had Sridhar Swami, he gives it that way, Chakravarti Thakur, Jiva Goswami, they all give it that way. And the idea being that this, in the path of Shuddha Bhakti, there is no effort or no inherent activity to control the senses or to regulate kama apart from engagement in the practices of bhakti. In other words, it's not that we do some renunciation, some self-regulation, some willpower exertion over here, and then we do bhakti over there. And when we're got our yoga willpower, self-restraint, control stuff all buffed up, then we're going to go and do these bhakti practices or something. but rather the whole central theme of the path of Shuddha Bhakti is that just by cultivating Bhakti, these foreign elements will be removed from you. Bhakti itself produces this effect. And so there's some ontological explanation for this, given in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in the definition of sadhana, the definition of bhava, and illustrated throughout the whole description of sadhana bhakti, where it explains that bhakti itself is Sarup Shakti, is it what they call it, Ladini and Samvid Riti Vishesh, or a particular combined function of the Ladini and Samdini Vrittis of the Ch.Ch Shakti or the Sarup Shakti. And the Ch.Ch Shakti and the Maya Shakti never coexist, just as light and darkness do not exist. Wherever light comes, darkness goes away. Right? And that same point is used to describe Kama and Prema earlier in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, saying, Kamanda Tama Prem Nirmal Bhaskar. There is a vast difference between Kama and Prem, like the difference between bright light and dense darkness. And wherever the light comes, the darkness goes away. And moreover, that is also given at the very beginning of Bhagavatam. Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam. That this Satyam Param has its own Dhamma. Dhamna is an instrumental form of Dhamma, which in that context doesn't mean place, it means Dhamma in the sense of light, in the sense of Shakti. So Jiva Goswami reads it like that by his own Shakti, he dispels all Kuhaka, which means Maya. In other words, by his Sarup Shakti, he can dispel Maya Shakti. This is like the central tenet given even in the core original verse of Bhagavatam. So that principle plays out through every layer of ontology in Gaudiya thought, from the position of Bhagavan to the process of Abhideya to the understanding of Prayojana. Everywhere this is the idea that the jiva is in this marginal position and it can be influenced by one or it can be influenced by the other, the way iron can be infused with fire. So the conditioned jiva is like iron infused by fire, fire being Maya. It's permeated by this conditioning of Maya. But when it's subjected to the influence of the higher Shakti, then that lower Shakti is gone, just as darkness is removed by light. So that process, however, doesn't happen exactly instantaneously, and that's where things get complicated. Is it like you flip on a switch and then zap, it's over? Like darkness is gone like that? Well, most of us from the time we started practicing haven't experienced like a 100% 0 to 60 transformation of our consciousness after doing all of these things. So from a practical level of experience, it doesn't seem like it's quite exactly. And then it's Shatapatra Bednai. It's actually happening really quick, even though it seems like it's happening slow on this little time scale of our life. Well, maybe, but there's a little more to it than that. In other words, it's not just that it's like a zap one way or the other, but rather this is where like the Goswamis go real deep into like how this process works. And they explain that when the Sarup Shakti first comes in touch with the jiva, it doesn't immediately, so to speak, infuse itself into the iron, but rather it subjects it to its influence without entering it, which automatically dispels the foreign element, and when that foreign element is gone, then it actually enters. So they make a distinction between exposure to and actually being imbued with. And this is how a lot of things get clarified. If you can bother with a few technicalities, it harmonizes like 100 other problems. So there's like that, Bhukti Mukti Spriha Jabad, as long as these things are present in the heart, then how can Bhakti Devi come there? So on one hand, Why would bhakti come into this place that is totally contaminated? It's impossible. There must be anartha nivritti. When all these anarthas are there, bhakti will never come. It's absurd to think that you're, in the midst of all these anarthas and now you're involved in all this discussion and absorption and all this high type of bhakti and it's just that easy and it's just that simple. That's one side of the equation. But then the other side of the equation is this is actually one of the main verses mentioned in that connection, where it says, by the grammar, pratilabhya is like a gerund, which means it's not the finite verb of the sentence, it's the previous action that comes before whatever the finite verb and the action is in the sentence. So by the grammar, this higher bhakti is being attained, and then the kama is going out, which looks like a complete opposite statement of the idea of anartha nivritti, that first there's anartha nivritti, and then there's bhav and all these things. So this has been like a problem over years of people trying to harmonize these apparent opposite perspectives. On the one side, the Bhagavad is saying, first you get the bhakti, then the kama goes out. And over here, Rupa Goswami is saying, first all the kama goes out, then you get actual bhakti. So how do you deal with that, right? So that's the necessity of this dual concept of initial exposure and then permeation, and that those two are separate stages. So what's mentioned in the Bhagavad is that there can be this initial exposure to this highest, purest type of bhakti in the form of sadhu sangha, hearing, chanting, discussion of that thing. But that doesn't mean that whatever one feels when they're initially hearing it is that bhakti, and that's where the imitationism spins out. But rather, coming under that influence, that has this profound purifying effect, and affects the process of anartha nivritti. And when that process is complete and the kama goes out, then the thing actually comes and possesses someone. And after anartha nivritti, these bhav prem stages come about. So there's this idea of attaining it in the sense of attaining its connection, coming under its influence. And then there's the idea of attaining it in the sense of being completely free and entirely absorbed in and transformed by and an instrument of that thing. So these 2 points, side by side, harmonize the two perspectives. So therefore, if someone, takes this super conservative stance and says until we achieve an artha nivritti, we cannot hear anything, do anything, think anything. It's all imitating anything. We just have to but if you take that position very extreme, you can't do anything. You can't hear any lila. You can't even chant Harinam. What can you do that you think is not possibly imitating something or some emotion that may or may not be substantial? It becomes ultimately absurd, so to speak. But at the same time, there's some sort of dignity and some sort of almost Victorianism about it of we're not going to settle for some improper, messed up, mutilated nonsense. We want the actual thing. We want the pure thing. We're ready to pay the full price. We're ready for the long, hard road. It has some charm on it on that side as well. So then maintaining that, those two balances, then the other side is that, there are these prescribed practices of sadhu sangha, nam kirtan, bhagavat shravan, and of all types of bhagavat shravan, this type of bhagavat shravan is the ultimate type. And by engaging in those practices, one subjects oneself to the influence of the Sarup Shakti through the Bhagavat, through Harinam, through deity seva, through all these things that are carrying that energy and producing that purifying influence. So then there's that stage of initial contact that is affecting purification. And then this anartha nivritti process is running. And then as the process develops, to that extent, this higher type of bhakti starts to imbue someone. So then another point of interpretation comes up. Well, is it if there's 1% kama left, then no prem will enter? So to speak, does it have to be 100% clean slate and then begin? Or is it if 2% is gone, 2% has come in, and if 50% is gone, 50% has come in? And is it a proportional transformation? So on that point, Vishwanath Chakravarti said it's proportional. It's not that it has to be like completely, like this, and then it will start, but rather it's a gradual, along the lines of, as you surrender to me, I will reward you accordingly, to the extent that the purification is affected, to that extent the higher energy is active and working. But at the same time, though that percentage notion is accepted, there is a special notion of once the percentage does reach like 100% purity influence of Sarup Shakti, that becomes like a categorically distinct experience, which has its own notion of but that's one of the reasons why Rupa Goswami differentiates between bhava and prema, right? By saying that actually bhava and prema are the same thing, but yet he says that one is like one ray and the other is like the sun. And he, a little bit different than other classical, commentators, created this dual stage notion of the attainment in order to illustrate this gradual process by which it is reached, rather than just like, this is the goal. And it's sort of uncertain exactly when and how and where that will take place. So he's given so many of these finer gradations. Anyhow, so along all of that is along these lines to say that yes, it is appropriate to read it that this highest bhakti is attained, and then like all the necessary data we just discussed on what attain means in this context, and then by that connection, then this disease of the heart, this kama, is going out. In other words, by the effect of the Sarup Shakti, the Maya Shakti is being dispelled. And thus, one is immediately, or as a result of that, dhira, which means able to tolerate all, according to the beginning of Upadeshamrita, able to tolerate all these urges that go on naturally within one, but when one no longer has that, any samskar to act on them, it's just like some things they're tolerating. It's nothing of any that can produce any serious change or any serious influence over them, which is the whole theme being described here about Ramananda, that because he's so much imbued with this higher thing, then even in the midst of these triggers for action upon these natural urges, nothing happens. But at the same time, to give also support to the other view, if it is read that, the idea of dhira is the prerequisite for the attainment and the removal of kama, then we would say dhira would be read as a similar thing in addition to shradanvita, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Upadeshamrita commentaries, he explains that dharya, which means the state of being dhira, also means having conviction in the siddhanta and having adherence to the ideals and these type of things. So we could take it along those lines. Otherwise it would be redundant if we took dhira to mean free from lust. If there's another word in the same verse that's also describing someone becoming free from that, it would have to have a slightly different meaning. So someone who has the composure, the conviction, the faith to engage in the process and keep up the process in the midst of distractions or their present samskaras, they can achieve this higher thing and thereby become completely free from the residual samskar, vasana, etc. within them. So both are, of course, acceptable. But one last thing I'll just say is that there's a nice point in Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this where he describes it very, very strongly, right? And he says, after making so many of these points and ultimately praising how purifying it is to hear this lila, and he says and Didi already mentioned this point, but he just says it very strongly. He says that, if someone, hears that not only is this lila pure, but hearing it purifies others, right? And then he says, and if someone does not accept that hearing this lila is the most purifying thing that there is, then he says they're a foolish atheist. He uses this mudha nastika, Like if you don't believe that this is the most purifying thing, he just like comes down like that. So in other words, if this really is the crowning like life air of the Bhagavatam, then to like, we'll do like conventional like talk of rishis and kings and all of that, but when we get to this, then it's like, no. So he's saying, no, you have to accept this. You can't accept one part of the Bhagavad and not another. You have to accept that the gopis, their siva is the ultimate thing. And if you don't understand anything, you're rejecting the whole Shastra, actually. Anyway, I just thought, wow, this is a triumphant remark of a Gaudiya writer. Anyway, there's some random thoughts on the subject.
Glad that was recorded. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, could you compare deer to Nishta?
Nishta is in the stages of the...
Yeah.
You could. I mean, I don't know, I haven't heard any technical analysis like that, but sure, why not?
Exactly means like fix, like focus, like Dira.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen anyone go like to try to equate it with exactly a stage in the process. I haven't seen any commentary like that, but generally it just means like not fickle, not restless, not disturbed, not coming under the influence of the passing thoughts and desires of an ordinary person. In this context, it's given like that, this, like, if wayward behavior is produced by a twofold part, it's produced by the samskar in the person's mind, and then the weakness of the resolve of the person to act on the samskar, right? Then it's sort of giving both sides and saying, this person who gets this high purification, the samskar in them is getting removed, and that weakness of their own resolve to act on their lower samskars is also getting set right. So very nice things, right? Very, very beautiful points. Well, yeah, should we conclude, or do you want to say anything else? Yeah. Okay, cool. Hare Krishna. Ch.Ch, would you like to sing? We haven't heard your kirtan. Gopal Govinda Ram Shriman Jai Saparikar Shishi Guru Gauranga Radha Giridhari Ju Ki Jai Jai Srila Gurudev Ki Jai Srila Guru Maharaj Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Acharya Binda Ki Jai Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Sri Rup Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Saparsa Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai Sri Nabadip Dham Ki Jai Sri Ganga Mai Ki Jai Sri Purushottam Dham Ki Jai Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopa Gopa Gopi Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Jamuna Ji Ki Jai Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai Ananta Kuti Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai Samagata Gaura Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai Sri Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai Vishakha Didi Ki Jai Devotees of London Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol